Hey guys, our devotion today is from Genesis chapter 22, and today we're reading about God as He's revealed as Jehovah Jireh, or the Lord will provide. Before we get into that, I want to remind you today, let's be in prayer for Ricky Neff. I would imagine that this is probably an extremely familiar story, Bible passage for many of you. The story of Abraham and God asking Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. I think that even though it's a familiar story for us, that's still a pretty jarring request by God. And we read that and wonder, Lord, how in the world could you, or why would you, ask someone to sacrifice their son? Of course, it tells us at the beginning of the story that God was testing Abraham's obedience, testing if Abraham truly feared God. I think testing if Abraham trusted in the promises of God, because we understand that Isaac was the promised son, the one that God told Abraham He was going to give to him. And there's these promises that are going to come through Isaac. And so within this is inherent this idea that God is testing whether Abraham trusts Him or not. And, Abraham is following after God with his whole life. And so God needs a man who's going to trust Him, who's going to be obedient. After this whole ordeal, when God provides the ram, Abraham names the place. And of course, he tells Isaac before that, he knows that God is going to provide. God is going to see to it. God is going to give them what they need. And he puts his trust in God. And of course, God comes through. I think for us, this whole scene probably reminds us of how God has already provided for us. He provided Jesus Christ as the ram who was sacrificed in our place. And so we have a great opportunity to reflect on that when we read this story, that God has already provided for us everything we need. God is our provider in the most important sense, provided life for us through Jesus Christ. But also, God is our provider in our everyday life as He calls us to do things that to other people might seem crazy. I'm sure if people understood that Abraham was on his way to this top of this mount to sacrifice Isaac, they would have said, "Have you lost your mind?" But Abraham was just following God, and we're going to run into that same sort of thing. As we follow Christ and He calls us to do certain things for His kingdom, to put ourselves out there, to give up certain things that maybe we practiced before, people on the outside of that may look and say, "Have you lost your mind?" But we understand the Lord will provide for us. He's already provided everything we need in Jesus. He can take care of us. And so let's just spend some time today worshiping God, thanking Him, proclaiming Him as a provider, proclaiming that we trust in Him, and seeing where He wants to lead us. God bless you guys.